Welcome to this week's weekly on a slightly different date than we normally do, and that's because Everton are playing on Monday night. So we've pushed the weekly down a little bit further, doing it here on a Friday, just about Friday afternoon here. I've got Pete and I've got Warren with me as usual. And there's a few things to discuss with Everton just before we start looking ahead to the game on Monday, which I think there's plenty to look at ahead of that as well with what's been going on in Spurs and unfortunately what's going on with Roy Hodgson and potentially having a new manager, things like that. But we'll get to that soon. Um, other news this week, lads, and I don't know, it's pretty. Don't want to say this for our listeners, what 2 minutes in, but it's very consistent. We end up talking about the owner of our club and issues and all that. But I know every time Pete's on, he loves banging on about it, don't you, mate? It's the favourite thing you ever seen happen to Everton, isn't it? You don't even want trophies. You're just more than happy to see all of these stories about all sorts of issues we've got going on and appeals and whatnot. And apparently around about now, today, people are saying could be in the next few days that we get some sort of result from this when they said mid-February. Um, but I want to start with yourself, Warren, first before Pete goes on and starts talking about he's the slick fella. Um, the defeat there at Man City last week. I don't think me and you've spoken since then. I think it felt to me a little bit inevitable that it was going to happen. Question was in my mind what what sort of way we'd hold it, what sort of way we'd play. And I hate to say it, might get some pelters from our listeners here, but I was more concerned about us going there and getting absolutely destroyed. And that didn't happen to our credit. And I'll get on to Calvert-Lewin in a sec because he seems a common theme that we speak about a lot. But what did you make of that away at City?
Well, we were just talking before we started recording. Then I was on a school trip. We took the kids up there, and just on the whole, I'll mention it a little bit after I've spoke about the game. But what a thing they've got set up with City. I've got so much time for the work they've got there and what they've done with not just the men's team, but the stuff they put in place for the academy and for the women's teams and
You
the
go to the
infrastructure they've
ground,
got
the
there.
mini ground they've got as well.
Say again, mate. Sorry.
Little mini ground they've got, in a mini ground, the stadium you've got. That's phenomenal as well in itself for the women's team.
Yeah, we watched the men's under 21s as well on the Sunday. But just everything they've got there, the training sense and everything, it's incredible what they've done at that place. So there's a little bit of jealousy there with me and wishing, we could have something similar. But anyway, as far as the game goes, I was sitting in the home end, I was sitting with the kids. We took the kids to the game, and it's interesting. I think sometimes you get a different perspective when you're sitting in the home ends and you're on top of it, and obviously you're surrounded by the home fans. And I thought, I listened to yourself and Matt and the lads do post match, and then you and Matt do Blue Monday. And I think, there are a lot of what you said I did agree with. I think in terms of going up against a very strong Manchester City side and bearing in mind the fixtures we've had recently, I think we did relatively well. I think in the context of this season, it's probably not a bad result, and that's not I've heard you say similar. It's not something to say it's an achievement or something to be proud of that we've lost 2-0, but I just think the way things are at the moment in regards to both clubs, it's not actually the worst thing that happened. And the little small wins you can get, like them not having a shot on target until the 70th minute when they scored, and the way we defended and everything else. I think again, there's positives to take out of that game. Ultimately, listen, we come up against a side who are FA Cup winners, Premier League winners, European winners, European Champions League winners, world champions, and we're going to come short. It's as simple as that. We held on well for 60, 70 minutes, and then Pep Guardiola's got the luxury of bringing Kyle Walker, Jack Grealish, Kevin De Bruyne. He can take Alvarez off as well, who's just played an hour. And looking at our bench, not to criticise the lads on there, but they're not in the same level, the same league, the same stratosphere as what Pep Guardiola had available to his disposal. So all in all, out of the disappointment, there was positives for me. I think there were a couple of performances there. Obviously, I know you've mentioned Calvert-Lewin, and I've gone on record on this show as saying I'm not sure where he gets it back. I'm not
Yeah.
sure where he returns to the player that I think we all wanted him to be. But I thought, in on the whole, it was a decent performance. I actually thought Onana when he come on was a real positive. Um, I thought the way he demanded the ball and wanted the ball was something we've not seen for a few weeks, and I just thought that little, oh sorry, that option in midfield, that different option in midfield, that if he continues to be fit for the rest of the season, I think that could be a positive and that could be something different with the midfield. I thought Idrissa Gueye was fantastic again. I think he's been a real plus point. And I'm just all on the Ben Godfrey redemption arc. I really am. I thought whilst he was not a 6 or 7 out of 10 performance or anything where you go, that's incredible, what a defender, what a player. Doherty, mate, was on fire.
Yeah.
I was sitting in the end where he was on that wing, and they just all they wanted to do was give him the ball. And I thought Ben Godfrey did absolutely brilliant against them. I really did, and I think there's room for him to be a player in this first team. And I've gone, I've been one of those ones guilty of hyping him up and he should be in the England squad and he might get a sniff at the World Cup and all this. And when he was at a bit of a peak and when he was at a bit of a high, not long after he first come, and particularly those performances under Carlo Ancelotti. I really do believe there's a player there. What an athlete! He's big, he's physical, he's strong. And lest we not forget that the year before at City, he was one of the only players I can remember who actually frustrated, disrupted, and stood up to Erling Haaland, which not a lot of world class defenders have been able to do. So I think I really do feel that's been a plus point. I think the performances of those three players I mentioned and the defence as a whole was absolutely fantastic. I think going forward it's something to be positive of. I don't think take too much out of it. It's Man City. They are streets ahead of us, streets ahead of anyone, let alone Everton. So let's not get too downbeat about it. And the important thing is now, and I was talking to someone else about this morning, the important thing is now these games we've got coming up, these are the ones that are going to define our season, and we've got to start putting points on the board.
Yeah, it's interesting what you say there, isn't it, Pete? Because I felt more and more this week thinking back on it, it felt to me like more of a cup tie than it did about a Premier League game where we needed 3 points there because you're going to a side that, it's if you were to get anything from them, it's a massive bonus. Whereas you sort of, and hate to say it, maybe I'll get people criticising me for saying it, but I think if you're sensible, you would say you're expecting to go there and you're expecting not to win or get a draw. You get a point there, you played really, really well. And that's not to say, like Warren said there, we did play well in spells of it. They didn't score till 70 odd minutes. Um, but the other thing as well to take in context is you've probably got 90 odd percent of the Premier League aside from the top three or four who'll be going there and even playing to get a result. Let's face it. And I said that word context there, and I don't want to dwell on him too much because we've spoken about him quite a lot in the last few weeks. With Calvert-Lewin, I mean, I had some arguments on social media after that game. I don't have much sympathy for him as me and Warren have spoken yourself in weeks and months gone by about the lad, whether we really think he's going to get back to what he was, let alone make it to how he was a couple of years ago. Whilst I still have that in my mind, I think last week against City was ultimately the wrong time, the worst game you could probably speak about how poor he is and how poor he was there because of who he's up against. And I felt in that at the time I got a bit ahead of myself thinking, well, we need to actually show stuff here because we need some momentum going into this game, this 6 pointer effectively it is on Monday against Palace. And I felt sorry for Calvert-Lewin. And again, I need to declare that that's not me saying that I think he's as good as he used to be. I think the lad's got some real problems here, and we have a big issue to sort out in the summer. This, providing that we're still allowed to buy players or whatever, providing we're still in the Premier League, of course. But um, I felt sorry for him in terms of the players that we just couldn't get in around him. People are saying, "Oh, we can't hold it up." Well, if he did hold it up, who's he going to give the ball to? Who's like, when we've still got 10 players back in our own half and he's the only one in their half. I had a lot of sympathy with him, just in the context of that game itself. But is can you even eliminate that from the criticism we put towards him? Because he's gonna be the one who starts on Monday. He's not going to start better ahead of him, let's face it. With no other alternative, we can't help but support that fella as much as we've criticise him and don't think he's been good enough for quite some time now.
Yeah, well, I think just like I've been trying to keep a cool head with this. What other people have referred to as such a poor run of results. I think a lot of context is needed given the teams we've been playing. I know that there's people keep going on about we've only won 1 in 7, but when you in the Premier League, but when you take into context of we've played Tottenham twice, we've played City twice, Wolves away is a really tough place to go at the moment. We've got a good point of Fulham. I think that in the same breath as saying that, that's a tough run of fixtures for us as a team. I think it's a tough run of fixtures for him as a centre forward as well. And I think that in terms of, as Warren has sort of said, our season's more going to be defined over the next 4 or 5 games rather than the Man City game last weekend. It's the next 4 or 5 where we really need to start picking up points. This is the 4 or 5 games where we really need Calvert-Lewin to step up and try and find some form. I think that we don't really have any other option but to stick with him. I did feel sorry for him because of, I mean, not only was he isolated, he's also isolated against the Man City defence, who are full of their back line is full of absolute quality. So he's not going to get he's not going to get a sniff at the best of times. Never mind when he's totally isolated up front on his own. Having said that, I think the team performance as a whole, I was pleased with. I've said on Twitter afterwards as well. I said, accepting that going there and only getting beat 2-0 is a reasonably positive result. That's not accepting mediocrity. It's just accepting reality. The reality is that Manchester City are absolutely streets ahead of us. And the position we find ourselves in now, it was so important that we didn't go there and get absolutely battered, that our goal difference didn't take a beating, because that goal difference is worth an extra point at the end of the season, as we've seen, in the past. So I think overall, I was pleased with how we set out to play. I think we were the first team in 3 years to stop Man City having a shot on target in the first half. These are all sort of small wins, if you like, but for me, if you can defend like that against the likes of Man City, that gives me confidence going into these final games in the season. And I think if we can show that defensive solidity and keep it up for 90 minutes against some of this, with respect, some of the lesser sides, the sides who don't have that quality to come on off the bench, then that defensive solidity will do us well. From now till the end of the season, if we can add goals to that, then that's what we need. That's the main issue for me is being able to show both sides of the game, being able to defend, and then being able to bring the likes of Calvert-Lewin in, get him more support and start scoring goals. As I say, I think Monday gives us a good opportunity to do that. It's by no means a given that we're going to beat Crystal Palace on Monday. Given our home form over the last few seasons, it's been difficult for us to play at Goodison Park. But it's vital that we all come together. We get behind every player, in particular Dominic Calvert-Lewin, because if he can refine his form and if he can just get a goal, I mean, he was so unlucky as well. With the was it against Spurs, wasn't it? Where we all thought that he'd scored and it ends up deflecting in off Jack Harrison. And he almost needs one to go his way, where something just goes in off him, something deflects in off him, and he breaks that duck. And I still have faith that he can go on a run. I really do. I think he's not helped sometimes by how isolated he is. I don't think we get the ball in the box early enough for him sometimes. I think that at the moment he's snatching at chances because his chances are so few and far between. It's not like he's getting 3, 4, 5 chances in a match. He's lucky if he gets 2 or 3. He's lucky. So I think, if the team can click around him, and if he can get that goal, take the pressure off him a bit, I think we'll start to see a bit of form from him. And it'll do us all some good, the team and the fans as a whole.
The other side of this one as well, and I don't think it's been spoken about enough really, is he's only going to score goals by the chances that are created. Now, it's what come first, the chicken or the egg, really, isn't it? When you're looking at the midfield and how it's played and the chances it hasn't created. Um, that is surely an issue that he would openly, obviously not going to say it in public, but if you spoke to him behind closed doors and said, you know what, why are you struggling to score goals here? I bet you at the top of that, quite near the top of that list would be, I'm not getting any service from these lads. People aren't whipping the ball in for me. I haven't got players getting up and around me. A lot of that to do with Decore out. I mean, I think me and Matt didn't stop saying his name every couple of seconds when we did the Blue Monday show. Let's hope he comes back on Monday. But I think he's got a fair point to make that in his own defence. I mean, as much as we could criticise him about not really showing or looking like he's going to score a goal, I mean, there are mitigating circumstances there, aren't there?
There absolutely is, and this is why even though I've been critical of him, I've again tried to reassess and evaluate the we're going to keep using this word forever, aren't we? But the context of it all, and we haven't had a midfielder or a player for a long time now who's just got that ability to thread that through ball or to link the play between the midfield and Calvert-Lewin himself. We just haven't had that. A lot of the goals we've scored, especially this season, are things like set pieces or crosses into the box, or it's been from people like Decore or coming from wide or midfield areas. The way we play as well and the system we're set up for is geared towards us getting goals from them areas. So we don't play. You look back to Ancelotti and even Benitez first couple of months under Benitez as well. I'll take you back to that Southampton game, the very first one after we were allowed back after COVID, and I just remember that game. It was won by the fact that we just put balls in the box. We put balls in the box, and a lot of goals he scored in that early part of that season, Calvert-Lewin under Benitez, was because it was get the ball wide to Townsend, Amari Gray, and whip a ball in. And that was where we saw some success from him. We've not had that this season because the two wingers we've got have been asked to either cut inside and keep it compact or do a lot of tracking back. They've not been really allowed to get forward themselves or as wide as we'd like them to. So he has been deprived of a little bit of quality service into him, not just from wide areas, but also from deeper areas as well. And that's why Decore, I think, has been proven to be such a pivotal player for us, is because he's the only one in that side who's got that ability to run from deep or to run from midfield and to be that extra body in the box and provide the goals or provide the support and just take that little bit of work rate, I suppose, or a little bit of what's needed, that responsibility off Dom. So we've missed out massively, and I've tried to take that into account when considering his performances and think, what if he had those things, if he had those tools to his disposal, what would he be able to do? He'd be able to, you'd think, add more goals to his game or be an all-round better player. I think though Matt Jones made a great point when I heard him the other day, and this is probably where my criticism lies with Dom, is I look back to the Bournemouth game early in the season, and Matt referenced this game as well. He just looked like the complete striker. And I think in other games in previous seasons, he has looked like a complete striker. Games against Arsenal, for instance, in the past, where he's bullied that back four single-handedly. And maybe there is a psychological issue there that he's not the same player anymore and he can't do those aggressive, physical, typical number nine striker performances that he was once so superb at. Maybe there is a little bit of a nagging doubt in the back of his brain that if I do this, I'm going to injure myself again and I need to stay fit. There's too much responsibility on me to stay fit for this team. I'm the one responsible for scoring the goals. And I think when you're the team like Everton as well, he probably feels that responsibility more because we're not scoring enough goals and that's his job. That's his forte, if you like. That's what he's on the pitch to do. And when that's not happening, it's difficult for him. So he's certainly got the weight of the world on his shoulders. And like Pete said, he probably just needs one to go in off his backside or, just a game where he has a couple of tap-ins like he did under Ancelotti just to start him going again. I think, though, I've been thinking about being considering this as well. And I got asked this question this morning as well about do things, the style Everton need to do they need to change? And you're just going on a little bit of a tangent at the moment about, the way Dice has set us up. Listen, we've said, Dave, me and you, I don't think there's anyone else who could have come into Everton last season and kept us up. There's no one else, I think, in the predicament we're in who I'd rather have at the moment. And that's not me saying he's the greatest manager ever or he's brilliant, he's this, he's that. He's got a lot of flaws. And I think one of the flaws that we've particularly seen this year is he is sticking to a system come hell or high water, whether that's because of the players available that he's got. He can't do much changing with the options on the bench, and he hasn't got much in the way to change the squad around and refresh the squad, which I've got total sympathy for. But I just feel that in particular, especially at home, I feel we could go for games a little bit more and maybe get a few more bodies pushed forward. And to his credit, he has done that. You know, you think back to the Newcastle and Chelsea games at home in December. I mean, the Corey's goal, actually, I think there was about 4 or 5 people in the box, 4 or 5 Everton players in the box when that ball comes across. So he's not opposed to getting players forward. But I think maybe just in recent weeks, there seems to be I don't know whether it's a hunger from the players themselves or a desire or just a reluctance from Dyche's part to tactically get these players forward and just to maybe consolidate and to hold the system and the positions they have. But it's affecting other players like Calvert-Lewin, like Takore, like McNeil and Harrison. Um, I felt a bit sorry for them too as well because I think a lot of their work recently has been what's going on behind them rather than what's in front of them. And I think on the day, especially Dwight McNeil, I think on the day he can show just what a player he can be in front of goal and creating stuff. So there's a lot of factors behind why possibly we're not scoring and why Calvert-Lewin isn't looking like the player he was. Does it change? It kind of has to. I think especially now we've talked about as well the fact that the home games we've got left, I think it's only Liverpool, isn't it, who are in the top half as it stands. Everyone else is in the bottom half. These are games we've got to take points from. This is going to define our season, whether we stay up comfortably, whether we stay up by the skin of our teeth, or whether we go down. It's the home form. Home form hasn't been great. Goodison traditionally is a hard place to go if you speak to opposition fans and opposition players. We've got to make it that. How we do that and how it's done is up to, yes, a bit of dice, but also one of them players as well going forward. We've got to start being ruthless, Dave. We have to be. We're not scoring enough. Defensively, I've got no concerns at all. I tell you what, if we were scoring 1 or 2 here and there every game, I'd have no fear because
Yeah.
defensively, I think we're absolutely brilliant for where we are and what we are at the minute. But going forward, we've got to find a way of scoring because I think the more I know Luton had a bad result last week. I know a few other teams have not been picking up points, and actually, generally last week the results went for us, considering who we played and who everyone else played. But I looked at every one of those games, Dave, and every one of them are scoring. Forest scored 2, Luton are scoring. They may be conceding at the other end, but they're all scoring, and we've just got to try and readjust that balance and find a way ourselves of scoring. Because if we don't, that's where the fear will come for me.
Yeah, I think what you're saying there about other teams scoring, obviously the opposite end of us, where like you said, I don't see any problem really defensively, even as far as what you said about Godfrey coming in there when Coleman's not fit, and still for some reason I'd love to speak to him and ask what his problem is with Nathan Patterson because he doesn't seem to get a kick anymore. But I asked this question a few weeks ago, Pete, and just I want to get your view on this with Dyche. And I sort of think he's twixt in between here in many, many ways, but I think back to his Burnley days, really, to give some sort of, estimate on what he's like and why we got him. And I think Everton in general, with Calvert-Lewin as the forward, is something he'd thrive with when he was back at Burnley. You think of those days with like Sam Vokes and all that. He'd love someone like Calvert-Lewin there. He's just used to obviously a lot more than we want to see, but it used to be Route One, and you've got people around him, and like Rodriguez and all those type of players running around him. With us, when he's first come in and seen him, he must have thought, right, this is someone I can work with. This is someone who can have loads of chances and score some goals for us. But now I look at him and I just what's in his head through training. He's spoken a little bit about it, hasn't he? Saying that things have looked really good in the training sessions. Things are working with putting Beto up by him as well, which being I thought as soon as I heard that, like this, you might as well put a bet on the team that we're playing because there's never gonna be a goal with those two playing up front on their own. Sorry, just the two of them. But do you have sympathy with Dyche I know it's easy to say yes immediately, but surely you've got a manager, a Premier League manager, who can come up with something else, even with, again, that mitigating circumstance that he hasn't really got many other options that he could put up there. Like, Schmidt's there, doesn't look like he's going to get a game. Dobbin, I think he should have played him a lot more, I think. Um, Danjuma doesn't look like he's long for us, does it? Let's face it. Do you criticise that situation with him, or do you simply think, you know what else can he do himself? What else would you do yourself?
I think there's probably a bit of both. I don't think he's beyond reproach. I don't think he's beyond criticism. I think there have been moments like in particular, some of the players you've named, Lewis Dobbin, and Danjuma. I think those two in particular are probably two players who we would have liked to have seen a lot more of. But having said that, I, I know that we like to refer back to his Burnley days, and I understand that because obviously he was there for so long, and people kind of got an impression of his style and what he wanted to do with the team and how he wanted to set them up. One thing I would say about his Burnley days is that all them players were his, and he was able to build his system, and he was able to build players and build that system over time. He was given time. He was able to get them up from the Championship. They had a really decent run in the Premier League. And let's not forget, like, by the end of Dyche's tenure at Burnley, they weren't just a Route One, bunch of they weren't just Route One and bully boy tactics. He actually ended up having some decent players in there as well. They played some decent football. Burnley, I always felt it was underrated, the evolution of what Dyche did with Burnley. But again, that comes down to the fact that he was able to bring in he had a squad full of his own players because he was there for so long. I think people need to bear in mind as well is that the squad that Dyche came in and took over was because of the amount of management changes we've had. People seem to forget that this is like a squad made up of 6 or 7 different managers, players, and it's going to take time. It's going to take time for any manager to be able to really imprint their style, their philosophy, and be able to to really show exactly what they want from a side and to be able to get the best out of players. Because again, I just think where the criticism lies, I get it. I totally get it. I understand that people want to see us playing more attacking, more free flowing football. But I just think at the moment that's not what we need as a football club. I think we need to go back to basics, and I think that's why Dyche has been the perfect manager for us in this situation. I'm not saying that going forward that he's going to be there in 5 years' time, or that he's the answer to getting us back into Europe or challenging for trophies. But what I am saying is that for where we are at the moment, with everything else that's hanging over the club, I couldn't think of a better manager for us in this position. And I don't know who will come in and do things differently, because with virtually the same group of players, we had Frank Lampard trying to play the ball out from the back and try to play possession football, and we were getting battered every week. We were going on runs of losing 10, 11, 12 games on the bounce, or, well, virtually. Benitez as well, he was supposedly meant to be a really defensive-minded manager, someone who was able to set up a defence and someone who was able to stop teams leaking goals. Well, I think he lost 9 out of his last 11 games before Lampard came in. So I look at this and just think it was so important that we get the mentality and like that siege mentality of we do not get beat, or we will, you won't just walk through us. I think there's probably, even over the last 6 or 7 games, where people have started to criticise Dyche for the lack of wins, I look at that and think, well, it's only really Wolves away where you can really genuinely say that we didn't turn up. I think that in all of the other games, including Man City last weekend, I think we've shown a good account of ourselves. And I think, as I say, I just think we need to have cool heads. I think we need to keep calm. We need to also bear in mind as well that without this points deduction, we'd be 12th, I think, in the Premier League, comfortably as well. We'd be well clear of relegation. We wouldn't even be talking about this. So I think there's a lot of mitigating circumstances that we've got to keep in mind when talking about Sean Dyche and talking about our style of play. I think that it's massively important that you that the team is able to be organised, that the team, like, for example, Luton, I've said before, at some point, Luton were always going to come good and have a run of form. They've had their best run of form and they're still only, what, 2 points ahead of us? Or a point ahead of us, is it? And you look at that and you think, well, their form is not going to keep up from now till the end of the season. Sheffield United, I don't think they've got it in them to start getting results together. I don't think Burnley have got it in them to start getting a number of results together. I think we are capable of being able to grind out results, and I think that starts hopefully on Monday.
Right, lads, I'll leave that for now. I'll give you 10 minutes and then I'll send you the link.
Is right. Nice one, Dave.
All right, lads. Speak to
See
you
you in a
soon.
minute.
So I said at the start of the show, lads, that it's Crystal Palace at home at Goodison on Monday night. We seem to have an infamous sort of battle with Crystal Palace seemingly every season, whether it's FA Cup, whether it's staying in the Premier League. There always seems to be a big game against Crystal Palace when they come to Goodison. That's exactly what they're doing on Monday night. I'm not too sure what you think of Monday night football. I'm no fan of it in general, although I'd rank it just about ahead of the 12:30 on a Saturday, which is just the worst time. There's that, and then there's 2 o'clock on a Sunday and 4:30 on a Sunday. You need Saturday 3 o'clock, let's face it. Saturday 5:30 is not that bad either. You can get out to the pub, can't you, early doors then, and set yourself down if you're away from home. But anyway, Palace it is. It'd be remiss of us not to sort of hope Roy Hodgson gets better soon because of what's happened with him in the last couple of days. New manager on the cards for them as well. I wouldn't have thought they get that done in time for playing us on Monday because, like you indicated before we come back on there, Pete, you generally clubs get that bounce, don't they, from when a new manager comes in. It seems like Forest have lost that, but we'll get onto that in a minute. In general, though, Palace have got a lot of good players, and there seemed a major issue when they were at Brighton. It's a derby for them, isn't it, last week? And he put a lease on. Did Hodgson put a lease on? And then it was like a comedy of errors this. So they put him on, and then he comes back off, like because he's done his hamstring in or some muscle in on his leg. He comes back off after 10 minutes. And they were interviewing Hodgson after that, and he said it's the physical people to blame because they told me he was fit and ready to go, but as soon as he went on the pitch, he looked absolutely knackered. And I'm thinking, well, surely you'd see him in training and all that sort of stuff. But by the by, anyway, um, yeah, given what's happened to Hodgson is really unfortunate, and hope he gets better soon. But the difference is there's a game for us here, and it's the traditional 6 pointer. This isn't it, Warren? And we haven't conventionally got our 3 points against Palace at home over the years gone by. Not just traditionally now that we need the win against them because it's massively important to keep us in the Premier League. But we were just talking there before we came back on about the league table itself. They're 5 ahead of us, is it, at the moment? So a win against them put them 2 points right into the mire with ourselves. Are you confident looking at this with in mind of what Sean Dyche is going to do with this 11 that plays against them?
Do you know what? They just seem like they seem a little bit like what we were this time last year. They seem a little bit like a club in crisis. They seem like the whole world's going against them. They seem like there's not just rumblings about what's going on the pitch. There's rumblings with their fans about their direction off it as well. And there's a lot of similarities with Palace and how we were for me last season. And I know
Yeah,
we got out of it in the end, but I said a few weeks ago on this show that if we were if we were a team in the top 8, top 9, whatever now, and we were looking down at it, you'd look at Palace and you go, oh, I'm not sure about them. I think the Evertonian in us though looks at it and goes, because they're above us at the minute, and because
yeah.
we're sort of in the mire with them a little bit at the minute. The Evertonian in you goes, they might be all right. But really, if you look at it, if you want it, if you had to pick, you landed from Mars and you got presented with all the facts and figures and data and all that, and you had to pick a team who you'd bank to stay up out of us and Palace. It was one of the two. Who would you back? You would back us because we're in a much more, obviously I know things still aren't 100% off the pitch, but we're in a much more stable position than we were last year. We seem to be a much more settled squad. We're playing certainly a lot better than we are last year.
Mate,
And
sorry
then you
to,
look up.
that is a big, big shout you've said there, I
Yeah,
think.
and well, it is. But then, Dave, I'm looking at the results. They got the customary point at Man City, what they always get. But over the last sort of December, November, they've hardly won a game, and they're losing and drawing games that you'd expect them to pick points up from. And I just want to read you their January here, so their and January and February results. So the last win they had, I think, was Sheffield United at home. They've lost. They've got hammered to Arsenal away. They've lost to us in the cup. Then they've lost to Chelsea last week, and then also in February they lost to the rivals in Brighton and a heavy defeat as well, 4-1. That's a club in a bit of turmoil there, and like you brilliantly said, then obviously our best wishes go out to Roy Hodgson and his family and people around him. But again, there was talk before we heard about his hospital visit that there was going to be a new manager in. There's a lot of things around that club at the minute that seem very unsettled, and I think if it was the other way round and it was happening to us, let's say we were going away to Crystal Palace on Monday night, the last thing I'd want us to be doing in their position is going away from home on a Monday night playing a club who are being playing relatively well in
Yeah,
us and and not having the sort of crisis moment the Palace seem to be having. Of course, the Evertonian and us all go, well, it could all go wrong still on Monday. But I just look at this game and I just think we are in such a better position than them at the minute. I mean, words could come back to bite me, but they've got three of the main players out at the minute in Elise and Pete, you'll
that's a
remind me of the other player. Eze's out, and
As a
isn't
Gay as well.
Gahey's out as well.
great
You
defender.
take do you know what? Like, well, England quality defender, and then the other two I think are brilliant wingers and brilliant attacking players. You take any, I don't care who you are, you take any of the three best players out of any side in this league, and they struggle. And you only have to look at with the team we talked so highly of before in Man City. They managed to get results, I know, but how much of a different side do they look with Haaland in the team? You take
Yeah,
Haaland out. John Stones maybe and Kevin De Bruyne. I mean, look at the difference De Bruyne has made when he wasn't there before Christmas. They're not winning 5, 6, 7 games in a row. You look at it now, and even his impact just coming back off the bench. They've won 6, 7 in a row now. Man City. They're three big players for Palace then. And again, take our position for instance. You take our let's say Tarkovsky, Pickford, and Calvert-Lewin were out injured on Monday. You'd absolutely fear the worst. So I think we have to be positive looking into it. I know that's a dangerous word with us, and I know famously down the years and famously this happens to Everton where our words come back to bite us royally in the arse. But these are the games now, and we should be going into these games going, do you know what? Yeah, let's take this game by the scruff of the neck. Let's let's take that responsibility of wanting to fight to get out this position. And what better way to do it than Crystal Palace at home, who, by the way, like you've just said, we've got a great record against recently at home. Dominic always seems to score against these as well, so maybe he can get, his little run going. And do you know another thing as well? I always look to, it's only a little thing, but I always look to things like, can you get 6 points home and away each season against teams? And we haven't done this for a while, but we've beaten them there earlier in the season. We've got a chance to beat the team twice home and away, which I don't think we've done for a while. And I
That'd
think
be
just
some,
little things like,
that'd be
do you know
some
what?
statistic that is
Just
good.
li just little things like that. I'd love to know I don't know off the top of my head. I'd love to know the last time we beat a team. I think it was maybe Southampton. No, it wasn't even Southampton last year because they battered us at home, didn't he? But I'd love to know the last time we beat a team home and away in the same season in the league. And I think that would represent a really big statement, albeit it's not going to change our season or not going to, all of a sudden make us safe from relegation. But it's just another little thing in the idea that, we've beat a team around us, we've taken 6 points off a team around us, and then Yeah, I really do. I think sooner or later we keep talking about how well we're doing and all this, but sooner or later we've got to start taking points. And what I really believe, what an opportunity to do this under the lights at Goodison. You know, we've just had our season ticket renewal announcement. We know we're going into the last season. We've got to make the most of every single game that's left at that stadium because do you know what? You know, even some of the videos that have come out this week, which I know we may go on to talk about in other shows in the
Yeah,
future,
yeah.
but it's already the long goodbyes already started. We've got to start like really enjoying going to Goodison this last season or so. And I think Monday represents really do, Dave. I think Monday represents a brilliant chance for us to go in there, make a statement to the rest of the teams around us, come out with a 1-2-3-0, whatever it might be, and show that we don't deserve to be down there, and to show that we should be pulling away now and looking to pull away with the players we've got coming back as well. So I'm looking forward to it, and I think ultimately we will get the right results. I hope my words don't come back to bite me because they tend to, but I think we should be all right. I think we should be all right.
What you're having there, Pete? Is he right?
He's right. He's spot on. Yeah, I think the caliber
Bastard.
of the players.
To be honest with you, mate, the way you are.
Yeah, no, but genuinely, like when you look at Palace and like Warren's just touched on, the players that are missing, Eze and Elise in particular, I think they're two absolutely outstanding players. I think they're absolutely top class. The type of players we should have been signing when we were spending money. They've got them from the Championship. They've brought them up. Two players who were really highly thought of in the Championship, and they got them for decent, for decent money. I think those two being out is a huge, huge blow for them. Just to reiterate as well about Roy Hodgson, I think given his age and given the pressures of being a Premier League manager, you just want to wish him all the best and hope that he comes that he gets himself right. I doubt whether he'll come back as a manager now. I think the rumours were that he was due to be replaced anyway. That shouldn't have any bearing on Crystal Palace on Monday, in my opinion.
But it will.
In terms, I don't think. Well, put it this way: I don't think a new manager, even if a new manager is appointed today, I don't think a new manager would have enough time to have any kind of real impact on a team, especially a team who are missing so many players. I think the only sort of thing the Palace might try and do is try and frustrate us, and try and keep men behind the ball. And we're going to have to find a way to break them down. We're going to have to. I think they're going to want to do what we do to teams when we go away from home. They're going to want to keep things tight and try and hit us on the break. We need to find a way, and this has been an issue for me. And this is sometimes why I think we struggle against sides who we've been expected to beat. I think we find it difficult to break teams down other than from set pieces. I think we look a lot more confident on the counter attack when we can soak up the pressure, maybe give up a bit of possession, and then hit teams on the break and then defend for our lives. I think that sort of style is what suited us. Certainly this season, I think that's a way that we've been able to get pick up points. Certainly away from home, we need to find another way of doing it at home, and this is a really big test for us. I think if we can come through Monday and we can get the 3 points, I think that sets us up for the rest of the season. I think hopefully it'd drag us out of the bottom three, but also I think it'd give us that belief that we can go out and beat teams. And like Warren said as well, in terms of the Goodison Park, the impact Goodison Park can have. What I don't want to happen is to turn up on Monday night and for it to be like a morgue. I don't want to turn up and for Goodison to be flat
Mm.
and people going through the motions again. I don't want us to sleepwalk into another 10 games left, let's fight for our lives sort of scenario, which we've had for the last 2 seasons. We need to make sure that Goodison is on fire. We need to make sure that the crowd are right up for it, and we need to make sure that we get behind the players from the first minute and don't underestimate. I mean, I've sort of said about Palace missing players. There's no such thing as an easy fixture in the Premier League, as Luton have proven. Luton were a team who were totally written off at the start of the season. They've managed to grind out results. So I don't think we can take anything for granted, but I still believe that we've got the quality in that side.
Mm.
I keep referring back to it, this false position that we're in. We should be comfortably clear of relegation at this moment in time. I think that the extra quality that we do have in that squad and the extra quality that we do have in terms of how we set up, I think that Monday is a really, really good opportunity for us to go out there and get the 3 points. And I just think that if we can just have a game, I can't remember the last time I was able to relax in a game of football, like watching a game of football. I can't remember it. As optimistic as I try to be, you should see me when I'm actually at the game. I'm like, I'm an absolute nervous wreck. I can't enjoy a single second of it. To put it into context, when we were playing Brighton away last season, um, and we were 4-1 up going into injury time, and I was still thinking, would it take a draw? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I'm like, I'm that type of like, I panic at everything. I'd love it if we could get an early goal, early couple of goals, and have a bit of a more enjoyable, relaxing evening. But I very much doubt it because it's Everton. But I've got every faith that we can go out there and get the win. But yeah, but the other thing to bear in mind as well, touching on Roy Hodgson, is that I think it's kind of forgotten the position that Palace were in before Hodgson came in, and the reason that he came in the first place. This guy's in his 70s, and he's come out of like retirement to come and take over Crystal Palace again. Palace were in free fall back then, and I
Mm.
almost feel like things are starting to balance themselves out a bit now, and that sort of boost that they had, that when Hodgson was able to come in and sort of steady the ship a bit after Vieira. I think that the chickens are coming home to roost now, and I think that certainly without their star performers, I don't think that Crystal Palace have got much quality in that side. I think we can beat them. I really do.
Do
You
you
know,
know, sorry, Dave, just before you move on, mate, just
yeah,
while Pete was talking there, I just had a little look at the fixtures Palace have got left. They have got to play Luton and Burnley at home. But before the end of we're talking last week, I remember the last time I was on, we were talking about our fixtures and how complimentary they look on paper. Palace have still got to play Spurs, Newcastle, Liverpool, City, Man United, West Ham, Fulham, and Villa. They're all sides
yeah,
that if they got players out, that's a very tough running for them. And if I again going back to what I said before about how you know you look at like our club compared to theirs at the minute, and they seem like a team that were very similar to us last year, a bit of a crisis club. Tell you what, if it had been this time last year when we'd lost that, what was it, seventh game in a row, and we had them fixtures to fall back on, I'd be terrified right now.
yeah.
So listen, again, I'm not. It's not all about one club because we know how unpredictable things can be, and we've still got the fact of Luton, Sheffield United, and Burnley who are right down there as well. But what a terrifying set of fixtures they are. So they're probably looking at our game on Monday and thinking, Christ, if we don't win that, we are in trouble. So again, I just think it's every reason for us to be positive going into Monday and thinking, right, this is it now. Let's put them to the sword and let's worry about the rest of our season after we've sorted these out.
On a bit
Mm.
of a tangent, I think I can do one better than you. So I've just been looking at Forest. Forest tomorrow. Forest have got West Ham at home. Now, look, I'll maybe give that them because of, I mean, Moyes isn't probably too far away from being in sort of pressure the way West Ham have always been with them after getting beat 6-0 last week against Arsenal. But that'll be a game they're really trying to pick one up, won't it? After that, though, they've got Villa away, Liverpool at home, Brighton away, Luton away, Spurs away, us away, Man City at home, Chelsea at home.
I mean,
So
this it's a dangerous thing to do, and we shouldn't
oh, it
really be
is. Yeah,
doing this.
we can
Looking at
sit here all day, and I could go on the
yeah,
Facebook, Twitter, and put a list of that thing every season someone does, like the remaining six fixtures of everybody and what they've got.
yeah.
I could
What
leave
you
it
think
to
that
you, mate,
what
but
you
you
it's
do that.
it's a dangerous thing to do. But I think the point being, and I think this is where we're all trying to go is when people were saying about, oh, we haven't won a game in seven and we've done this and we haven't scored and we haven't done this. And yeah, look, reasons to be concerned, definitely. But if you look at the set of fixtures we've just had them come out of them relatively okay and still in a fairly decent position, as in the way we've played, not in terms of league position, obviously, but there's all I'm trying to say is there's reasons to be hopeful because we've had our run of fixtures where we've played the real tough teams now. Like I'm talking the real top 6, 7 teams, and we've got a set of fixtures now where I think we can look into them and go, there's points to be won. And when we've just read off, for instance, Forest and Palace there, who aren't even in the relegation zone, by the way. Let's remember that. God, I mean, you've got to be fearful if somehow we manage to do it. If you're them, you're going to be fearful. So it's a dangerous game to do what we're doing. But listen, we've had to do this for the last 2 years, haven't we? So we're going to. It's natural to want to do that and look ahead. But Pete quite rightly put it brilliantly before. I think as long as we do what we do, and I think the manager will be doing this as well. He'll be saying, "Look, let's just keep doing what we've been doing. We'll pick. Everything's pointing in the trajectory is pointing towards us getting points. Let's just keep doing what we're doing and we'll come out of it. Don't worry about he always says, doesn't he, Dice? Don't worry about the noise, controllables, all that. Just worry about what we're doing. But as fans, we can obviously look at that and take a bit of hope from it, which is what we've just done.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't want to keep doing that, do we? We don't want to look at other teams' fixtures. We want to be able to just go, right, feet up, let's enjoy the rest of the season.
Well, on that note as well, like I know that people, Luton seems to be the annoying neighbours at the moment, aren't they? Where Luton seems to, have come through. They've picked up a lot of form. They've started picking up a lot of points and scoring goals. But having said all that, we've just come out of a really tough run of fixtures. We're only a point behind Luton after they've had their big, upward trajectory, and they've had such a great run of form, and they've got some decent results. We're still only a point behind them, and we've had 10 points taken off us. So a lot of perspective is needed again, in terms of the capabilities of this squad of players and our ability to be able to pick up points. I think we just need to. I keep saying it. We need to keep calm. We need to keep cool heads. I think the next 5 fixtures are the ones that will define our season rather than the previous.
The thing that gets me as well, aside from the results we've just spoken on about there, and me and you weren't there absolutely being quite soft, saying who's playing who, haven't we, really? But the thing for me all season, it's underlined that a lot of us has been the form of Goodison. And I think
Mm.
that was, people didn't, I wouldn't go as far as saying people didn't care as much, but people obviously are more optimistic due to those away games. We've been really, really good away from home until the difficult run we've just had there. But now it's the time, like you said. I don't want really involved oh, this is the season before last, and look, everyone's getting, you can renew your season ticket right now, and you get a new little box with all load of nice stuff that they say has been lovely at Goodison and all that. I do love all that, by the way. I'm not taking the piss. But that to me now, has stood at the front, it's standing at the front me is us at home. There's so many games that I look at and think, how on earth did we not get a result against these? Luton being one of them, by the way, at Goodison. There's been, and I think it's been there for several discussions that we've had across the season, and sort of an unwelcome theme that we wanted to speak about. But Goodison's been very different to how it was for seasons gone by, even when we've been as low as we have been in recent seasons. Goodison's been a lot different, in my opinion, this season. And I think a big part of us getting out of this as soon as we possibly can is Goodison being like it used to be. I know a lot of people used to throw that into all sorts of perspectives in years gone by, particularly when we weren't in relegation fights and whatnot. People complain about it when we then get a draw, when we're chasing for the European position and stuff like that. And then people would say, oh, it's only when we're playing Liverpool at home that you see the crowd on its toes screaming the Goodison down. Not by any means to criticise fans, because it's that old, what comes first, chicken or the egg, which I've already said today. But, is it the team that's making us in the attitude we have towards them, or the team playing like they are because we're not backing them as much as we should? It's often been the latter to me, that it's the players' responsibility to have us doing what we want to do, what we can do. But there's an argument on both sides of things, and I just think, and that's why Monday, I don't fully get immediately behind what the both of you have said there. I think there's been an underlying issue of us at Goodison, for various capacities of it. We worry about chances we create. Like you said, defensively, he's not a problem. But even at Goodison, I look at it and I think, where are we creating chances from here? Because every time I look at it, I'm like, we look so predictable. It's infuriating. You look like you're going to get the ball out to Harrison on the right hand side, and bless him, the lad works his ass off all game long. But I personally just think he's a championship player. You look at Neil Reach recently, well, and I know you've loved him all season long, Pete, but he's gone cold a little bit in the last few games, to say the least. And that in itself is just like, your Crystal Palace, and if Roy Hodgson's back, bless him, on Monday, or they've got a new manager in, or it's Ray Lewington who'll be sort of standing in for him if he's still out. When you're doing your team talk there, you're looking at how do you mostly stop Everton from scoring a goal. Well, first of all, you'd say you stop Calvert-Lewin and then anybody else who tries to get the ball to him. I'd be astonished if those two things aren't the top of the list of whoever is the manager on Monday. And that, to me, in a nutshell, puts in that issue we've had at Goodison. Um, Away from home, a lot of people haven't looked and thought that we're going to be predictable to play against, but they've obviously needed to be the team that takes the edge in it. They need to be the team that's seen by their fans as the one who push forward above any away side. That's just traditional in any football. But that's why I think where we are right now is it's such a strange place that we're in right now, because like you guys have both said there, those games coming up, particularly at Goodison, have been the ones where you think, yeah, we'll get another, what do you reckon, 15 points, probably keeps you in on to what we're on now, 34. Probably keep you in. You think 5 wins out of the last 10, last 14, you're thinking, piece of piss, that we should do it. But I just have like a nagging feeling about this, just given what we've been like at home. And that hasn't been the same in the 2 seasons where we've just stayed up. Not trying to sound negative, but you sort of get what I'm saying there, Pete, in that sort of thing I'm saying.
Yeah, and I think one of the things about Goodison Park is that people talk about about the atmosphere. You know, over the years, people have said about how intimidating the atmosphere can be for opposition. Well, I think it can be equally as intimidating for the home
Yeah,
players.
yeah.
If things don't go our way, sometimes it can have the opposite effect. That's obviously not by design. Like, no Evertonian goes into the ground to get on the players' backs or anything like that. But I certainly think that the
Mate,
mental fridge.
you would sit against some nice people,
No. Well, I think the mental fragility of this squad of players has been proven certainly over the last 2 or 3 years, and I think I've said it time and time again. I think that was one of the main issues that Dyche had to deal with was to try and break that cycle of this mental fragility within the side. In terms of players getting their heads down as soon as things go against them. I think the thing about Goodison Park as well, it's always been the same, and this isn't just a new thing. It's always been the same, that it's very reactionary. There's nothing false about Goodison Park. It's not like, we don't play a little song before kick-off and everyone sings it, then everyone goes quiet for 90 minutes and sings it again at the end, naming no names. We don't have a dedicated singing section and things like that, which, to be fair, works for some teams, works for some clubs. I know that Arsenal and the Emirates, that their atmosphere's picked up. I know that obviously Crystal Palace, talking about them on Monday, they've got like a small singing section who make a lot of noise at their ground. But I think with Goodison Park, it's always been a lot more reactionary, and I think the main thing that we need to see is that the players are fighting, and sometimes it only takes one tackle. Goodison can be really quiet, but it only
It's a
takes
great
one
point.
tackle or one moment, and it just picks everything up. For example, the last game against Spurs, where it seemed to be like a bit of a lull in the crowd up until the last 10 minutes, and things went against us a little bit. A few bad refereeing decisions, and all of a sudden, they poked the bear a bit, and I feel like that's what we need to happen on Monday. I think that the Palace players will have the instructions to try and harness the Goodison atmosphere and use it to their advantage by frustrating us, by frustrating the Everton players, by getting men behind the ball. And I'm sure they'll try and use it against us. I think us as supporters, we have to just stick with the team and try and push them over the line, which we've proven we can do. We've proven, the Evertonians have shown our class and our backing of this team, our determination to help this team through bad times. I think now is the time that we've picked that up, and I think Monday night should be hopefully we can see a bit of an upturn in both the atmosphere and performance. Because I know, having spoken to two players, certainly in the women's game, I've interviewed a number of players, and one of the things they always talk about is just how it's not even a cliche. It genuinely means so much to the
Yeah.
players to hear to support, to have the support of the supporters. Like, it can't be underestimated. I know it's said time and time again, but it genuinely is true. It gives the players such a lift just having that backing, and also it can be really, really intimidating for opposition if they can see a club and a fan base who are all fighting together. And certainly, especially when things are going badly, if you stick with the players and stick with the team, it just ramps up the pressure on the opposition. So that's what I really hope to see on Monday. I hope that the supporters, us fans in the stands, are up for it, and I hope that then translates to the players, and we get a great performance out of them.
Few minutes to go there, Warren. What do you think about what I said there, given the home form and all that sort of thing that I've come out with?
Look, home form has been an issue, no doubt about that. We haven't picked up the amount of points certainly that we'd hoped we would have and expected to at home. But what I will say is this is I try to always look for the positive as best I can. I know it doesn't always work out that way, but we've had a dip in form at home this season. What better time with the home games we've got left to change that? It doesn't last. That form will not last. We will pick up again at home. Why not now? And just one last thing as well. I've just let a look there. We've got 7 games left at home this season. We might not get drawn in the cup at home next season. We might get drawn City away in the FA Cup, for instance. We might never have a home game left at Goodison in the cup. So if that is the case, we've got 26 home games left. We've just got to make the most of every single one of them. And that's me coming off at a bit of an emotional point this week after the videos I mentioned earlier that have been brought out and some of the photographs that have been sort of taken and shown this season. We've got to make the most of these last 26 games. Hopefully it's more. Hopefully we get home games in the cup, but we're talking under 30 games anyway, aren't we? Left at Goodison.
Yeah.
Why go there now and make it like Pete said, the morgue? Why go there and be critical? Why go there and let the frustration get the better of us? Let's use this last 26 games as a celebration of this. Is going to sound a bit emotional and a bit sort of maybe a bit OTT, but let's use the last 26 games as a celebration of what a stadium that's been for us for the last 100 and odd years, and some of the memories we've had there and the memories that we're going to talk about over the next season about what it's made. Let's not spoil it by getting frustrated, getting angry, getting fed up. Yeah, there'll be spells and games where we do, but let's use now these last 26, hopefully more games at Goodison to our advantage. Start on Monday, big 3 points, set us on our way. Here we go. And then we can, start enjoying the rest of this season and hopefully end up being comfortable as we get into sort of mid-March, end of March and towards the end of the season.
Couldn't have worded it better. I don't think anyone could have worded that better, mate. I might send that to the club and put it on a few of the adverts. That'll sort everyone out, mate. We've got about 30 seconds left. Quick prediction. Want to go first?
I think it'll be. I think we'll win, and I think it'll be reminiscent of the Burnley game in the cup. I hate doing this because it ends up always being the opposite, but I think it'll end up being a comfortable Everton win in the end.
Pete, I know you're going to say the same thing, so just give me a scoreline.
1-0 Palace. 3-0 Everton.
People are going to be finding you when you go in the game. With you saying that, I might just
3-0 Everton.
I might just
3-0 Everton.
stick that out, mate. So you look like we're getting beat anyway. Yeah, I think we'll get 3 points. I think we'll keep a clean sheet as well. We'll be nervous, but I reckon we'll win 1-0. Calvert-Lewin will score. Anyway, boys, thanks for listening. Thanks to everyone for listening for the bumper weekly. Make sure you listen to it across the weekend. And Warren's back as well, because he's doing the mailbag as well, which is a load of fun, as we know. So make sure you tune in, and we'll speak to you across the weekend and after the game for our famous post-match for you to all kick off on me for the things that I say. Speak to you soon.